Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Crossroads of Cognizance, the one stop shop where we are talking about all things woo woo, energetic, spiritual, magical, any term you want to throw at it. If it is non typical, then we are here for it. And in the spirit of Halloween and spooky season and Samhain and all the beautiful happenings in the fall, we have decided to do like a little, like I would call this like a mini series, right? We did movies, scary movies as a topic last time. And so this time we are switching gears to scary TV shows or scary TV series. So we've got some ghosts in the comments. Um, and so as we are sharing and going back and forth here, I was very inspired by our list last time. So go ahead and drop your the things that you find interesting in the comments section as we're talking, and maybe we'll build a watch list together. Who knows? I mean, we're about to make Netflix a little bit of money here, or one of the other big names. But before we get too deep in the weeds, if this is your first time here, like and subscribe, follow us, all that fun stuff. And we have introductions to make. And normally I go first, but Katrina, like your hair, there's like new, I don't know, something beautiful is really happening today. So I feel
Wow.
like
Okay, then.
you should go ahead.
Well, speaking of non-typical, wow, I don't know if I can do it if I go first. I love the non-typical. It's like, hey, you're atypical podcast or you're atypical broadcast. That's us.
Yep.
Katrina Raspold, author of more than 40 books on different aspects of metaphysical fiction and nonfiction. You can absolutely find them by just going to Amazon and typing in Katrina Raspold. There's literally not another single Raspold on Amazon, on all of Amazon, that I did not give birth to or marry. So you'll find me very quickly. Um, I also am a co-owner of crossroadsoccult.com, where we offer handmade metaphysical and magical products, as well as me providing readings, spell work, and spiritual cleansings for people. I've been a teacher for more than 40 years, coven leader, priestess. Gosh, what else do I do? I don't know. That's what I do. That's me. Hi, go.
It covers a lot, really. Like those titles that pretty much span everything you could possibly need in
Oh,
a subject
co-editor of
system.
Green Egg Magazine.
Oh, okay, except that.
There we go.
Well, over here on the East Coast, I am Dahlia Rose. I am the founder of the Conduit School. It's a place where I've brought together community surrounding topics like healing, uh, offering myself as a teacher and a conduit for various kinds of energies and supports. And this is a space where I build and guide, build up my students and guide them through spiritual development, energy work, metaphysical things like crystals, lots of services like Katrina. I try to make myself available and as useful as possible when it comes to spirituality. And if I don't know something, I usually refer them to Katrina. So, but other than that, I do all of this because I believe that we need to expand the way that we look at healing and really reconnect with our bodies and find our sense of empowerment. So, watching scary movies and watching scary TV shows used to be a very harrowing experience for me as an empath. But through this show, through the love of this show and desperately wanting to have talking points, I found empowerment. And
Wow.
so I know it's because I love you and our audience. And
Oh.
so so I managed to tackle some fears around these kinds of things, as I was saying kind
Wow.
of last show. um, the TV shows aren't as bad. I feel like they kind of walk you into what could be scary, terrifying, or otherwise. And So that's our topic today is scary TV shows. And we both have, I'm sure, a list. And this one feels like last week we weren't doing too much overlapping. This one definitely feels like it will be. And I want to give a quick shout out to Katrina for her recommendation on Dr. Sleep. It was fantastic.
Isn't it great?
Yes.
Especially if you know the Shining story. If you
Yes.
don't know anything about the Shining, it's not as good. But
Right.
knowing about the Shining, it's just a little love letter to the people who enjoyed that movie.
It really is. And if you had trouble with The Shining, Dr. Sleep is a little bit, I would call it a relief.
It's more gentle, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you guys haven't seen it, go out and see that. But so, well, since you began with introductions, I'll kick off our first TV show.
Well, in full disclosure, for our TV shows, I have 12. I couldn't pick 10 favorite children, so I have 12. Plus, I have, when I start, I'm going to start off with my honorable mentions. Yes, just to get those out of the way so people don't go, well, but what about? So that's my disclaimer before you get started.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I did struggle a little bit with this. I really feel like I pressed. Some of these don't feel as scary as they should be, but I will start with.
Oh, wait till you hear mine.
One of my favorites was Midnight Mass. So mine are very contemporary.
I have not seen that.
Midnight Mass was fantastic. You really it keeps you guessing. We talked about this last time. It's got to be both psychological and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is like what makes it interesting are the twists and the turns, and the central figure is a priest. And so right off the bat, where can it go from there? And it is not what you think. It is not, I'm gonna spoil this one bit. It has nothing to do with exorcism. Since I mentioned the priest part. So go and check it out. That is my first one. What do you have, Katrina?
Okay, well, I forgot to look up one thing. So I'm just researching a thing, and yes. Okay, everywhere. So here are my disclaimers to start with. First of all, I did what I did with the movies to a degree. So I had to eliminate, because there were so many shows where a primary focus of the show was on a fantastical creature. So if the show is specifically about vampires or about zombies, I didn't include it. If the main theme is one specific fantastical creature, I excluded it. That explains almost all of my disclaimers. It also, now we could do a TV show that is a recurring series, or we could do a mini series if it was made for TV and showed on TV, not as a movie that, okay, now it's an old movie and we're going to show it on TV. It has to be made for TV. So I had those. So the ones that I excluded, just so you guys know that I'm paying attention, and I know there are really, really great shows out there that are in my disclaimers. Number one, there is a show called Being Human. There is a UK version and an American version, and they are both excellent. They follow the same storylines with different actors and different character names, but they're amazing. They are contemporary. They are about a ghost, a werewolf, and a vampire who live together, trying to mainstream into normal life. And there are some horrific parts of it. It's really amazing. And I can't recommend it enough. It has a start, it has an ending, and so you will be utterly captivated. So Being Human is available. The American version is on Amazon Prime. The UK version is on Apple TV, and you might be able to find it in some other places. But Being Human, wonderful. Of course, the new AMC Plus Interview with a Vampire is amazing. It is absolutely incredible. It's a cinematic masterpiece to watch. The story is horrific and wonderful. So, Interview with a Vampire, the new one, the series. The Last of Us on HBO Max, a wonderful sort of pseudo zombie movie based on a video game, incredible. Of course, Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel, I love both on Hulu, but again, vampire specific. And then the last one is also vampire specific, and that is True Blood on HBO. I read all the books by Charlene Harris, every single book. There's like 30. Love the books, love the series. True Blood's amazing. So those are the ones I'm getting out of the way right off the bat because I couldn't put them on my list because of my criteria because I'm a Virgo. So there's that being the case, one more thing to mention. While I was researching all of this, I found a show I have not seen that I really want to see, and it's called Kingdom Hospital. It came out in 2004. Never heard of it. It's not available on any streaming services, so I'm trying to find my ways to find it. And I have my people looking for it, so I may be able to report on Kingdom Hospital. It looks really good. Now, that being said, let's finally get to my list. So I have a list of 12. They are in no particular order. And I really love all 12 of these for different reasons. And it took a lot to narrow these down. And I just couldn't get it to 10 without omitting something really amazing. So my first one is The Haunting of Hill House. And it is a Netflix series. I think it's also on Amazon Prime. It's the old Shirley Jackson story that we mentioned last week when we were talking about movies, but it's drawn out into a series. It's extremely well done. It's horribly spooky and really wonderful. So Haunting of Hill House is my number one, not in love, but just the first one I mentioned. Go, Dahlia.
Okay. Yeah, I have to agree and actually cross that one off my list because we both shared it. I think they did a really great adaptation from movie to TV series. It was very easy to empathize with the characters. They covered so many profound human experiences in one show. That if you can't connect with anybody on the show, I mean, are you dead inside? Like,
I would not live on Earth.
Right, absolutely. Even if it's just a fraction of a personality, they did a really, really great job. I loved seeing some familiar faces. I don't know if you're noticing that in some of the more contemporary scary films, is that they're repeat actors. And I thought I would hate it, and I don't. I really love seeing their range or just how they wonderfully adapt the same kind of person.
Well, there's room to hate it because a lot of times when you take a classic movie and try to reinvent it in a contemporary fashion, it just gets all bungled up. And in this case, they went so hard into character development, which honestly was not really there in the Jackson story so much. It was just a haunted house story. But they just went all out on character development to the point that it's almost like they took all of the voices that live in my head and turned them into a character. And so it was, maybe it was just meaningful to me, but I absolutely love that show.
No, 100%. I can fully stand behind that one. Okay. So, I'm probably just very basic for this, and it's more than just one series, it's several, but American Horror Story. So the reason that I had a struggle with creating this list is that if I get into a series, my life stops. Like everything goes to shit, and I need to invest myself. And so a lot of times what I will do is I'll just wait till the series is over and do a binge. And even then it's problematic. So for me, American Horror Story, I always wait till the season is over. They started doing these stupid little breaks in between that really drive me crazy. But to say that I love this show is a fraction of the emotion. They choose really interesting topics. They choose things that have history behind them. And oftentimes, if you're paying attention, they bring the lore to life in a way that honors what is, even if it is like a what do you call them, like an old wives' tale or a urban legend. They pay homage to it in a way that I can really appreciate. And I saw that first with Coven. I really appreciated how they looked at voodoo in that series. And so from there, I was really hooked. Now I'm trying to get into the newest season, and it's called Delicate, I think. And it's a little exhausting. Sometimes I'll say that, like, if you're going to give American Horror Story a watch, sometimes the first couple episodes are dry. I think everybody's favorite is Hotel because Lady Gaga was in it. It's vampires. It's all the things. And so, but that's all, next on my list is American Horror Story. There aren't none of them are terrible. Some of them just take a little bit of time to warm up, but that's on my list.
I haven't seen it.
You what?
I've not watched American Horror Story. Not in a responsible way. I watched the first 2 episodes of the first season, and the way that they filmed it, their cinematography was so staccato that it was fucking with my Meniere's really bad. And so I just said, I'm going to have a seizure if I keep watching this, so I'm not going to watch it. And everybody keeps talking about it. I keep hearing how good it is, and I just haven't seen it. So I'm glad to hear that you recommend it, because I can't speak to it. I wish I could, because some of the seasons look amazing.
Yeah, some of them really are. I hadn't even considered the visual. Yeah, it is very choppy.
Well, I have this bizarre affection for Kathy Bates.
She's pretty wonderful.
And I kind of want to hear that. I just love her to the moon and back. She was in a show called Disjointed, where she played the owner of a cannabis shop. And she was so amazing. And of course, she's amazing in everything. I fell in love with her in Fried Green Tomatoes. And I just absolutely adore her in every way. So seeing that she was on it was really exciting for me.
Yeah, and it's a shame that I don't know why she hasn't returned, but she's fantastic. I'd watch anything she's in.
That was incredible. So my next one does have fantastical creatures in it, but it doesn't focus on just one. It goes through these story arcs that are just interlinked, like beautiful, perfect little chain links, and it's amazing. And that's Penny Dreadful. And Penny Dreadful is on Hulu and Disney Plus, and it stars Eva Green and Timothy Dalton and Josh Hartnett and a lot of big names. And it goes through all of the classic monster stories and horror stories. And it's just lovely. It's very emo. It's very dark. It's very gothy. And I just absolutely was hooked from the first episode, which is really rare for me. So check out Penny Dreadful. It does have some really scary, tense moments in it, but it's just a delight. Absolutely a visual delight.
You and Deb seem to have the same taste.
Deb and I are going to share TV, man.
Well, and I think so. Again, Googling to refresh my memory on some of the shows that I really enjoyed, and Penny Dreadful was on a lot of lists, so I'll have to check that out.
Definitely, you will like it, and it does have. It's not one of those that just got canceled and we don't get the end of the story. It does have. It's as though they knew the end was coming, so they kind of wound it up and left it so that, okay, if we do get renewed, we're all right. If not, the story is gone. But it was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Very dark.
Yeah, I hate the cliffhangers. I can't deal with the cliffhangers. Unless it's for a strike, and then by all means. So I have to say this one again, contemporary, before we get too deep into it, because I just finished it and I'm still sort of reeling off of it as an Edgar Allan Poe fan, and that is The Fall of the House of Usher.
Saw it, didn't watch it yet.
Oh, so good.
Good to know.
They well acted. beautiful expressions of the works of Edgar Allan Poe, like little nuggets thrown in there. It was really well done, well shot. I'm trying to even think, there are no bad actors in that one. Um, and it just really deals with the worst parts of being human in a way that make you appreciate it. So yeah, go and check that one out.
Okay, will do. That one is another I'm not familiar with. While we're on contemporary, I have some contemporaries too. Y'all think because I'm old that I'm just going to drag up this stuff you can't watch anymore. And no. So one of my favorites that I was really hesitant to put on my list, because I got to admit, halfway through the first season, I was still kind of saying, this is really hokey. This is just predictable, and I'm not loving it. You're going to have to convince me. By the end of the first season, I was hooked. The second season just came out, and I'm really into it, and that's Shining Vale with Courtney Cox.
Ooh.
And that is on, I want to say Amazon Prime, but I'm not positive. You'll have to research that. I've got several channels that I kind of jump between. Shining Vale is Courtney Cox and Greg Kinnear, and it's a haunted house story overlapping with a psychological break story. And and also, gosh, what is her name? Oh, come on. Mighty Aphrodite. I can't think of her name. M, starts with an M. Anyway, has a role in it as well,
Okay.
and whoever that is. But it's absolutely scary, and it makes you feel like if you've ever had any kind of mental health fracture, it really hits home. If you haven't, it's just a scary show. So definitely down for Shining Vale. It had me hooked. I was very excited that it got renewed because I didn't think it would be.
I was a little hesitant to watch it because of Courtney Cox. I don't have anything against her. I just was I don't know, have relatively been arm's length. She wasn't my favorite friend.
This is worst case scenario Courtney Cox.
Okay.
You understand? And she plays this person who is just not a sympathetic character.
Oh.
The writing is not amazing. And for an author, not amazing writing is just lazy. But the story just eventually pulled me in.
So I saw a commercial for it where she was trying to explain to a psychic, I think, that this ghost.
Yes. The little Wiccan boy. Yeah.
Yeah. So that caught my interest, ghost possession. But I've never followed up. So I'm glad it's on your list because it was a good reminder.
I'm trying to remember this. Oh, Mia Servino is her name. Mia Servino. Judith Light is also in it and plays Courtney Cox's mother. And I have this weird passion for Judith Light. She was in Who's the Boss? She also was on One Life to Live for a long time. And I just love her in this show. That helped me a lot to have her brought in. And so, yeah, I think you'll like it. But give it a little bit because the first couple I'd say the first 3 or 4 episodes, you're going to watch it going, why in the world did she recommend this piece of shit? But then it starts to get you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for the forewarning.
No problem. I got you.
So speaking of psychological thrillers, I will throw up one of mine. It's called The Watcher.
Ooh. Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it starts out very scary and then it turns into, I don't think it stopped really being scary per se. Like there's some moments that might be jump scary. But I see it more as a psychological thriller. And I think my favorite part was the end. And not because the show ended, but there is there's an aspect of it that how do I say it? Like, it just lives on. So without giving away the whole thing, it's something that keeps you guessing. You don't really know what's real and what's not. And the concept, I want to say, and I might be making this up, but I thought the concept behind the movie, like kind of like what starts the movie off and what becomes torment for the characters, was a real thing, like a real something that happened in real life. So, and anyway, that's what I'll say about that. Is
Okay.
it's interesting and a psychological thriller that I think is worth binging. And at the end, you'll just be like, "What did I just watch?" And so you're not going into this looking for the thing that changes your life. This is a break from reality and into maybe a psychological prison for a little while.
So, sidebar,
Yeah.
this would not make it onto my list, but something along those lines that starts out kind of psychological and then turns into a horror show is a one-season series called Behind Her Eyes.
Oh, I love that
Yeah,
one. That
that's what
was
it
a
reminded
great
me of. The
series.
Watcher reminded me of that.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
that was
loved
good.
that
Behind
so
Her
much.
Eyes. One season, not renewed. They were looking to renew it and they didn't. Another one that also not on the list, but what was the name of it? Not The Chosen. I'm watching that now. That's a Jesus show. Um, Kindred.
Oh, I
There's
didn't
a
see.
show called Kindred that's a time travel show. That's very good too. Kindred. I have to watch it by myself because it triggers Eric. So the next one I will mention that is on my list. Those are all just okay. Sidebar. This is good. This is good. This is good. But doesn't make the top 12. The next one I have to mention, I brought up last week, and that is Stephen King's Rose Red. It's on
Oh,
Hulu. It's a multi-episode miniseries about people who are brought to a mansion that has a haunted past. There is a side story called that is another series called The Diary of Ellen Rimbauer, and I watched both of those. And it's just a really good haunted house story. And yeah, Rose Red on Hulu.
okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that one out. I like Stephen King a lot. Great
Me
writing.
too.
Um, so I don't, again, psychological thriller more than scary. It's a movie show called 1899.
Love it.
Yes, it was. So this is a gosh, I can't even say what kind of movie it is, but it's set in the past, and yet another one that keeps you guessing. What could this be? Where are they going? How does that even work? Where does this
Mhm.
fit in? Those were a lot of the questions that I had, and they really do an excellent job of not filling
Agree.
in those gaps until towards the end. And it was well done. I mean, from uh, it's all set and shot in this sort of dark hue that lets you know that nothing is okay from the beginning. So definitely go in and check that one out. 1899.
Another sidebar that I'm writing on my list here that again not on the main list. It has potential to be next year.
Oh,
Is the AMC Plus series Mayfair Witches?
oh, I
It
didn't see that
is.
one.
It's good. It's you won't wish you had that time back, but it doesn't pull me in as a favorite yet. But it's a potential. It's definitely a potential. So and I was thinking that for my scary movies, I cannot believe I didn't put Skeleton Key on there.
Oh, never saw
I
that one.
love the movie Skeleton Key. Super hoodoo. Major hoodoo. And wonderful movie. It's the Skeleton Key with Kate, what's her name? Who is Hudson, Kate Hudson.
If you
Good
said
movie.
Winslet, I'd be off my list immediately.
No, 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 no. No, it's Goldie Hawn's daughter. So my number 5 is one that does show that I'm an old lady, because you cannot get this anywhere except on VHS, I don't think.
Oh.
And it's called The Dark Secret of Harvest Home. It was I think 2 or 3 part series way back in the waybacks. It starred Betty Davis in, I think it was her last appearance. And it's one of those, it's kind of like The Wicker Man, kind of like, oh, we've moved into this Connecticut town and something's very, very wrong here. And it's about this, the whole town is basically a cult that sacrifices the, I can't remember the names for it, but it's like the Harvest Queen and the Green King or something like that for the harvest. And it's very scary. It left me traumatized, man. It was, for its time, super scary. Dark Secret of Harvest Home with Betty Davis.
Sounds very Midsommar.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Okay. And I'm running out of juicy ones. Just my list is thinning here. So this one was pretty, like if we were ordering these, this one would be pretty high up. And it is The Haunting of Bly Manor.
Oh, I watched that. Yes.
Yes, it was. I thought that was well done. I love how the story turned. I didn't feel like it was your typical haunted house story where you had very obvious bad guy characters.
It was slow to ramp up too.
It was.
It had a real gentle ascent.
Yeah,
or descent.
But definitely worth the watch. And like I would put The Haunting of Hill House in front of that one in terms of ratings. But they do kind of coast along the same curve without as much character development in Bly Manor.
Agreed.
So that is worth the watch for sure.
So the next one, I'm trying to remember, it might have been Debs who mentioned it last week.
You said spoiler, I think it was.
Yeah, I think so. And this is one that if you were alive in the 70s and you watched this, there is no way it didn't traumatize you. And it's called Trilogy of Terror. And it stars a woman named Karen Black, who was a very popular actress back then, very pretty. And there were 3 stories, very much like the movie Creepshow, where it has vignettes, basically, of different stories. But Trilogy of Terror has 3 stories, and one of them is so traumatizing, I would wager nobody can remember either of the other 2. And it was the most dumb shit storyline ever. But it was about a woman who, what comes into her possession is, I think it was a suitcase that has this little tribal doll in it that was stolen from bad places. And where you ought not be stealing dolls. And it came to her. And this little fucker was cutting its way out of the suitcase and coming after her with a knife and stalking her in this house. And it was just, it sounds very Chucky, but it was freaking terrifying. And yeah, so definitely check out Trilogy of Terror. There is jump startle scare in it, but there's also just this, you are being pursued and you can't get away from this little, yes, the racist woman teeth, correct. This little Terminator doll that is just, holy shit.
Okay.
Yeah, I needed therapy after watching that.
Okay.
And I saw it the first time it came out, and a few times after that, thinking it couldn't have been that bad.
And it was. No proof needed.
Right.
Watch it one time and you're good.
I'm not going to say anymore about that little bastard.
It seems like there are a couple people that have been traumatized in the
Rick knows what's up, man. Rick and I probably watched it together when it first came out.
I mean, I put it on the list, but I'm gonna put a little asterisk next to it. Like
Dude,
maybe I've
dude.
lived vicariously through you all.
Bram, yes, that is correct.
Okay. Okay.
Dude,
Okay.
yeah. It's like being if you could imagine, we're gonna take this little kitten in a costume and make it the antagonist of this movie.
Oh
It
no.
turns out to be the most terrifying movie ever. So yeah, no. Yep, that's it. Trilogy of Terror.
Okay. Um so I in these I didn't have any specific episodes. But Tales from the Crypt.
Oh yay!
A little nostalgia here. I used to
Rousing it off.
love getting up and watching the crypt keeper come out of his little thing um and then whatever story would take place. I really enjoyed Tales from the Crypt. It was the only scary thing I could watch as a kid other than Chucky. After, like, we have Chucky trauma here. like not just watching the movie. I had a babysitter who had the doll. So after getting over that, Tales of the Crypt was a series for me that got me. I won't say it got me through a lot, but it gave me a little bit of, like, a little bit of. It made me feel brave.
There you go. Partying on
Yeah.
to what Dahlia and Bram said, I cheated with that one because I grouped Tales from the Crypt, Twilight Zone, and Night Gallery together. Outer Limits didn't do it as much for me, but Twilight Zone and Night Gallery and Tales from the Crypt were my collective anthology sort of scary shit. Night Gallery had one story in particular that I thought was especially scary, and it was I think the first episode, and it was one that showed it was a you would just have to see it. I'm sure you can catch it on YouTube even, but it involved paintings of a cemetery that were put down a staircase, and the guy's uncle, I think it was, had died, and you see the family cemetery with the new grave. Then you see the family cemetery with the grave open. Then you see the family cemetery with the guy, the shadow coming out, and then you hear the knock at the door. And that's the movie, like the episode in that much of a clip. So that was a really scary one. But yeah, I combined all of that. So I cheated.
Getting freaked out. Are we Debs?
Yep. So another one, I was just partying on to your Tales from the Crypt, which I think of the three, I think Tales of the Crypt was the scariest. So you are a very brave girl for watching that.
Oh, thank you.
That was really so the next one also shows my love for Stephen King again, because it is absolutely the love letter, and I hate to use that metaphor again, to Stephen King fans who read the old books, and that is the series Castle Rock, which was absolutely phenomenal. And there were, I think, 3 seasons, and it was just great. Every season was different, and every season was fantastic. So that's my next submission is Castle Rock, and it's on Hulu.
Okay. See, I by the name, I had no idea it was any kind of scary, really. So I'm gonna have to go check that one out.
Yep.
Continuing with the thin list, these are childhood ones. Not really scary. I think for me, the fun was figuring them out more than anything before the show ended. And that one is Are You Afraid of the Dark? So you'd have the kids come around the campfire, and one would tell a story, and that story would be whatever it would be. And that show, it was just fun. It was meant to be scary. I think a couple of them did kind of scare me here and there, but because they'd be in the dark, it'd be a scenario where a kid gets abducted, and that's real life sometimes. But and more so than ever, honestly. But so yeah, that Are You Afraid of the Dark was on my list because I was like,
that and Goosebumps both could get pretty harrowing. Speaking of the kid genres, one of the things that my kids were universally terrified of was the okay, I know Bram can tell me the name of this book, but it was the book, it had different stories,
Oh yeah.
and one of them involved the girl with the green ribbon around her neck.
Hmm.
And she would never take off the green ribbon from around her neck. And then there was something about then she died and they took off the green ribbon and her head fell off. And I cannot remember the name. I know the name of this, like Stories to Read in the Dark or something like that. It was a kid book that was at all of the like book fairs at the Scholastic book fairs. So there's a name for the book, and it was
Is it
and it
just the girl
involved
with the green
the girl
green
with the
ribbon?
green ribbon, I think it was, or something like
Yep.
that.
Yep. That
But
is
I
it.
can't remember what the name of the book. It was in a book. Looking, and we're
Scary,
talking about
scary stories to
scary
read in the
stories to read in the dark. Correct.
dark.
That's my buddy Bram. Good job. So my next one is a comedy, actually.
Oh.
Now, one of the ones that almost made my list last. See, I hate that I'm old and can't remember shit. Hold on. There was a see, I can't even type to do this on the sly. Okay, there was a movie called Tucker and Dale Do Evil that was really hilarious, and it was about these two kind of bumbling guys that people keep dying around them. Like this one dude accidentally fell into a wood chipper and just stuff like that. And people, all these college kids keep accidentally killing themselves around Dale and Tucker. And everybody thinks Dale and Tucker are murderers. So that was good. Which leads me to this one, which is an improved version of that I love beyond all reason. It's one of my favorite shows ever on TV. But it is scary, and that is Stan Against Evil. It's on Hulu. It stars John C. McGinley from Scrubs, who played Dr. Cox, and it's absolutely unbelievably hilarious. But it's
Say the title
also
again.
Stan Against Evil. His name
Hmm.
is Stan, and it is just amazing, hilarious on Hulu. And he plays a retired, I'm too old for this shit kind of country sheriff. And he has this really strange daughter that lives with him. And they go through all of these horrific kind of um, cases. And there's a new sheriff who's a young girl, and he's kind of scoffing of her. I think her name was Evie. And it's absolutely brilliant. It's well written. It's a lot of fun. Just fantastic. So Stand Against Evil is definitely one to check out, especially if you don't really get into horror movies, because it is primarily a comedy. But it has some really kind of harrowing moments to it.
Okay. Yeah, I think I want to stand against evil. I like a
Stand
little
Against
comic
Evil.
relief in here. You know.
So funny. So absolutely funny. Very camp. Total camp. But
Okay.
very good.
And we already mentioned my last one, Goosebumps. So I think everybody's kind of checked out Goosebumps before, but I was like, you know, what else can we do that's like small amounts of scary? So that's the end of my list.
That's my kids' generation, and they love the books. They love the show. I have 3 more, but they don't bear a lot of conversation, actually. The first one is an old one. It's an old lady one. Rick will remember this one. It's Kolchak the Night Stalker.
Okay.
And it was kind of like a predecessor to the X-Files. Carl Kolchak was a reporter, and it went into vampires, it went into werewolves, it went into all these different stories, and it was for its time pretty harrowing. And it was just a wonderful, again, kind of campy, but really good show for its time. Kolchak the Night Stalker, about this sort of Columbo type reporter who is finding himself in the middle of all of these supernatural stories. So very good with that one. Another one that can kind of go into the Night Gallery and Twilight Zone and Tales from the Crypt category, but is a little bit older. So I didn't know if any of you would have heard of this or not. Again, this is one Rick would know, called Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
Okay, so I vaguely remember something like that. Um, yeah. I don't know why I'm like, did I actually sit down and watch that series, or I was it in black and white?
It was, and it was
Okay.
very old. And he would
Okay.
step into his own silhouette
Yes.
as part of the opening. It was amazing. If you get a chance to read any of the old Alfred Hitchcock stories, he had anthologies that were like this thick, hardback. And there's a one called Puppet Show that is not your classic magic Anthony Hopkins, the puppets killing people thing. It's a different story, but Puppet Show, and it was just incredible. And it's not a show, it's a story. Read that. Very interesting. But Alfred Hitchcock Presents could get very scary. And the last one I have is one that I really, really enjoyed. Again, kind of campy, kind of different. And that's the show Erie, Indiana on Amazon. And it is a town called Erie. It almost has a Wonder Years vibe to the show because it's through the eyes of this kid. But he has a neighbor that is very, very, very clearly Elvis. And he has, and they have these weird episodes. Like there was this one episode where this woman was so terrified of her kids aging, that she made them sleep in Tupperware at night, like giant Tupperware. And so it turns out her kids are like really, really, really old. It's just an amazing, weird show. Erie, Indiana on Amazon.
I think I saw that particular
Yeah,
episode.
you probably did.
Oh my god. I can't even remember how old I was, but I
You were
remember.
probably, I would guess, between 8 and 10 at the oldest.
I
It was
remember the
but it's
Tupperware.
just wonderful. And that's my list. So to recap, without all of my asides of honorable mentions and my asides of, oh yes, this, oh yes, you know, through her eyes, oh yes, this. I had Haunting of Hill House, Penny Dreadful, Rose Red, Dark Secret of Harvest Home, Trilogy of Terror, Night Gallery, Castle Rock, Stand Against Evil, Kolchak the Night Stalker, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and by the way, Night Gallery also included Tales from the Crypt and Twilight Zone, Erie, Indiana, and Shining Vale, with honorable mention to Mayfair Witches.
Okay. Well, I'll do a recap as
Yours?
well. So The Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, any of the American Horror Story series, 1899, The Fall of the House of Usher, The Haunting of Hill House, Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Tales from the Crypt, and The Watcher.
Perfect.
That
So what
that is,
didn't we include? What do you all love that we didn't mention, so that we can go watch some stuff too?
yeah, absolutely. I didn't see any recommendations in the comment section. Let's hear them, guys.
We're not that good. Come on.
Yeah, we need to take a pause on adulting for a little while. I was surprised at the internet's list. There was cartoons on there like
Yeah.
Gravity Falls. I wouldn't call that scary at all. It had a lot of different myths in it, like Bigfoot and werewolves and things like that. But I mean, it was completely chuckle worthy. So it's interesting that the internet decided to put it under popular horror.
Yeah.
Would not have gone that way.
Some of the ones I saw mentioned now. One was Twin Peaks, which I regret to say I never watched. I heard Twin Peaks was very good. Another one was, and I do like this show, and that's Stranger Things.
Oh, I didn't finish it.
But I
Probably the only
don't
person.
know that I would think of it as horror. Grimm and Supernatural are both very good.
Also, did not finish Supernatural, but I was a huge fan of the ones that I saw um, in a dark room and other scary stories. Okay,
Okay.
okay. I'm gonna write that one down. Sounds scary.
Let's see what else. Let me get rid of this. I'm looking because I did come out, like you mentioned, I came across several that I thought it's kind of a different one to have on there. Bates Motel got mentioned, and I really did like Bates Motel, but I didn't see anything supernatural scary about Bates Motel. It was just scary, scary. What else? The Walking Dead, of course, is zombie.
Oh, no, Dahlia doesn't do zombie movies.
You
World War Z was awful. Broke all the
yes,
zombie rules. I hated it.
yes, it was. Um, there was another one that Aiden used to watch, and my grandson, I can't remember what it was. I've heard that Vampire Diaries are good. Didn't see it. I'm scrolling. We're scrolling. We're scrolling. And then, of course, there are all of the Ghost Hunter shows. Dark Shadows. I really, Debs, considered Dark Shadows the original, because when I was little, that one, I was scared to death of Barnabas Collins. Absolutely terrified.
Oh, okay. So I only saw the movie with Johnny Depp. What was that one called?
That was Dark Shadows, and it
Okay.
was a kind of comedic ripoff of it.
Ah, okay.
Yep.
It's a great story.
But yeah, there was a series. In fact, Angelique from that series just died. The actress. But yeah, that was a good one. And let's see, I'm looking through lists, and that's all that's really. Black Mirror is quite good. It has some good episodes, but I didn't find it consistently good. True Detective, I have no idea why would be on a horror list because it's a crime show.
Ah.
Not that it's not horrifying. X-Files, UFO show primarily, but really kind of moved into government conspiracy. Hannibal's kind of scary, but got into serial killer instead of an actual supernatural horror, which we were going with the energetic horror stories.
Right.
So, yeah. If you were going to go with that, then Sons of Anarchy is a horror story. So that's what I got for this time. If you all have anything to contribute, please leave them in the comments section. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. I mean, these can go well past Halloween as far as I'm concerned.
Sure.
As soon as Halloween ends, we're just counting down until the next one anyway. So
That's
the other
right.
holidays don't matter.
We just don't. Anything after Halloween is technically pre-Halloween for the next year.
Right, exactly. So keep that list building in our comment section. This was such a fun project, and now I'm gonna have to sit with family and watch these shows and live a little as opposed to work all the time.
So for October, we did Spirits and Ghosts, we did Poltergeist, we did these 2 episodes, and now we have to go back to being wise and clever and smart for November, presumably, unless you all come up with something better for us to do. When you get to, what are we on, like 91 or something like that, our
91st
episodes?
episode, yep.
We've pretty much talked about all of it, so
pretty much.
We'll have to circle back.
Wise, but there's always these caveats and these funny moments and the things that we've been through that it's just like, you really can't make this up. And the laughter just keeps it where it needs to be. When you get too serious about spirituality, you may want to take a pause and kind of evaluate where you are. What are your surroundings like? I think there's place for serious spirituality, but most of us, the vast majority of us, aren't there. And when I say there's a place for it and that we aren't there, I mean like, um, how often do you hear like the Dalai Lama make a joke, right? So,
Mm.
um, relatively serious characters on the world, on like the global scale, um, but laughter, fun, humor, all of that. It's all meant
And
to be.
our fiction, our books, our movies, our TV, we talked about last week when we were discussing the movies how it puts us in a position to flex our muscles a little bit that we don't usually flex, hopefully, in our lives, and have experiences we in theory would not normally have. And that's tough for empaths, of course.
Can
But at
be.
the same time, we can also do, oh Lord, honey, that'd be a whole series. We can also do the impression that we can get really lost in the unicorns and the rainbows and the lighter side of what we do, the more healing side of what we do, the more how do I put it, like woo-woo side of what we do that's very new agey. When
Yeah.
there is another side, there's a dark underbelly to what we do as well. And part of being a whole person, I believe, is being able to navigate all of those passages. And this gives us a safe place to do that.
100%. I do think that we kind of ebb too much in everything must be light and everything must be positive, and it really edges out a very important part of healing. And I had this conversation yesterday with someone who was like, I feel terrible. I think I need a session. And I was like, well, wait a minute. What kind of terrible do you feel?
Mhm.
Well, I'm vulnerable and I'm emotional. And this is not who I normally am. And I'm like, yeah, but this, if you look at it, if you sit with it, it is a place of strength and necessary, if nothing else. So don't be so quick to dust it off and try to seek the hardening that you think the world requires of you.
Mhm.
And I think that these TV shows and these movies kind of give us like light little reminders without us having to live the path these characters are playing out ahead of us.
Now you
So.
think you're cursed. Watch this.
Right, right. And then you start to go, oh, maybe I'm okay.
Maybe it's just my bad choices. I don't know.
Oh, man. Well, we are bumping up against that time again. This has been fantastic. We are eternally grateful for your participation. Like we said, keep that comment section going. And, you know, hopefully you come back. You're not stuck watching all these shows. We'll see you next Thursday. And we'll catch you next time here on Crossroads of Cognizance, folks. Bye, everyone.